Hey there. Tonight, you're not a warrior. You're not a legend. You're someone forgotten. Someone who wakes in a damp Viking hut near the edge of the sea. The wind never stops. The ground is never dry. Food runs out. Fires go cold. You get through the days by not thinking too much, and through the nights by staying still. You work. You wait. You endure. And no one sings of that. So let the dark settle. Let your hands fall still. And listen now as we step quietly into a Viking village. You wake on a straw mat inside a timber longhouse, somewhere along the fog-heavy coast of what will one day be called Norway. It's the 10th century, though no one here would know the number. The sea is close. The forest is closer. Your world is a handful of homes made from split logs and sod roofs, pressed between the salt wind and the dark trees. You are not a warrior. You are not carved into any stone. You are simply a villager, like your father, like his mother, like most of those around you. The air in the longhouse is thick with smoke and sour with the breath of too many sleepers. You shift beneath the sheepskin and feel how damp it is against your chest. It never truly dries. Your legs ache from yesterday, and your back from every day before that. It's still dark. But your body has already decided. The day has started. You don't rise at once. There's no point. The fire is dead, and the ground is colder than your skin. You listen instead. The low breathing of others, the scratch of straw, the distant whistle of wind squeezing between logs. The sea murmurs beyond the hill, though it could just as easily be your memory of it. Your feet search for the edge of the bedding. The floor is packed dirt, uneven, always moist. You touch it, and it stings with cold. You try not to think of the mice that nest in the corners, or the insects that wake before you do. Your shirt smells of fish and sweat. Your hands smell of iron and smoke. You put them to your face and feel the dried salt from yesterday's catch. You've stopped noticing the cuts on your fingers. The skin just stays open now. You reach for the bundle of kindling you keep near your bedding. It's wrapped in cloth, but even that is damp. Everything is always damp. You strike the flint. Once. Twice. The sound is sharp and wrong in the hush. Someone coughs behind you. A wet, rattling cough that belongs to no one young. You don't turn. You strike again. A spark. Then a curl of smoke. You blow gently. The spark becomes a glow. The glow becomes fire, barely. You feed it bits of straw, then twigs. You shield it with your body. It's not heat yet, but it's promise. The smoke rises and clings low to the beams. You sit back on your heels and feel the heat reach your knees. Others are still asleep, curled like roots in the dimness. One of them moans. Another shifts, turning away from the light. No one speaks. You wonder if they're truly asleep, or just pretending, like you do sometimes, to delay what the day requires. You stretch your arms slowly, feeling the stiffness in your shoulders. It's the same every morning, and it will be the same tomorrow. Now you rise fully. The sheepskin falls away. The air bites. You step toward the fire, careful not to wake the child closest to the ashes. Her face is smudged with soot, her hands curled into fists. You squat and add more wood, the last of it. Later, you'll need to fetch more from the forest edge, but for now, the fire lives. That will be enough to wake the others. You can already hear the longhouse breathing differently. More movement, heavier exhalations. Soon there will be questions. Is there food? Where is the fish? Did the net hold? You don't know the answers yet. You only just woke. But the question never wait. You rub warmth into your arms, into your fingers. You think about the tasks ahead. Mending the roof, fixing the trap near the stream, checking the storage pit for rot. Someone might ask for your help gutting a seal. Someone else will be angry about the missing axe. And all of it will be done in silence, or near to it. You'll speak when needed. You'll work when expected. You'll lie down again when the fire dies once more. The fire went out again. You weren't the last one awake, but that doesn't matter now. The hearth is cold, the ashes gray and deep, the faintest warmth buried somewhere in the middle like a forgotten ember under snow. You crouch in front of it, feeling the stone chill against your knees. The floor beneath you is packed earth, but the hearth is rougher. Uneven rock blackened by years of smoke and failure. You move your fingers through the ash, slow at first, like someone sifting a wound. Your nails catch on a splinter of burnt wood. Still damp. You knew it would be. Everything's damp. The logs never dried properly before the rains returned, and now they won't. You smell your own hands as they lift the kindling. Wool, salt, ash. You hate the smell, but that doesn't stop you. The house depends on this. Heat means food. Heat means coffee, if you had any. It means no one blaming you when they wake. You arrange the twigs in a clumsy pyramid, the way your grandfather taught you, the way no one else does anymore. The edges crumble under your fingers. The straw you kept hidden under your sleeping mat has gone soft with moisture. It doesn't rustle when you twist it. It collapses. The flint is cold, the steel dull. You strike once just to hear it. It echoes louder than you expect. Someone shifts behind you. A grunt. Then silence. You strike again. Sparks dance for half a breath, then vanish. You strike again. The rhythm is a kind of prayer, but not one to any god. This is not a ritual. It's a necessity. You feel the skin on your thumb split where the old cut never healed. The sting is sharp, and it wakes you more than the cold did. Still, you strike. Again. Again. A spark lands in the straw. You hold your breath. It glows. It dies. You whisper something, but not a word. Just sound. One more spark. Another. Then, fire. Small. Flickering. Trembling like a lie. You hunch your body around it and feed it slowly, the way you would feed a starving dog. A curl of bark, a twist of cloth, a broken chip of driftwood stolen from the beach. You hold your breath until the flame eats through the first twig. Then you let go, slowly, like exhaling someone else's pain. The warmth doesn't come yet. That takes time. But the light does. Dim orange pools on the stone. It licks the corners of the house, pushes against the darkness like a weak tide. You hear the house breathe differently now. Boards creak as sleepers shift. A low cough, a child's sigh. You know they're waking, even if they pretend not to. No one wants to be the first voice. The fire has to earn that. You sit back and watch the flame catch the bigger logs. They hiss. Not dry enough, but they burn. Your fingers are black now. ash deep in every line. You rub them against your trousers, but it makes no difference. You stretch your hands toward the fire and feel almost nothing. Your skin is too numb, too slow to register the change. But you know it's working. You hear it in the soft crackle. You smell it. The smoke rising with something familiar, something close to comfort. You could cry. Not for the fire, but for the part of you that still finds relief in it. You thought that part died last winter, when the wood ran out, and you burned the chair your father made. But here it is again. Soft, foolish hope. You push it away. No one else will know it was you who started the fire today. No one will thank you. But no one will scold you either. And that's worth something. You sit there a while longer, hands over the flame, eyes half closed, listening to the quiet of survival. Then you rise because the warmth will not last, and someone will need the space where you're sitting. You step down from the bedding, and the floor greets you like something alive. Not warm, not welcoming, just present and biting. It's not a floor in the way that word will one day mean. It's the earth itself, uneven and packed hard by years of feet, ash, and spilled broth. There are places where it's risen into small ridges, and others where it's sunken into cold puddles that never fully dry. The cold rises through your soles, sharp and immediate, as if the ground resents the weight of your body. You curl your toes without meaning to. It doesn't help. The dirt is damp, and something clings to your heel already. Maybe straw, maybe yesterday's water, maybe something worse. You don't want to look. You don't want to think about what lives in the cracks beneath you, what crawls through the dark when everyone's asleep. The floor has teeth in its own way. And this morning, like every morning, it bites. You walk carefully, not because you're afraid of falling, but because you know exactly how bad it hurts when you don't. There's a spot near the wall where the mud always stays soft, where someone spilled oil a month ago and no one cleaned it up because there's no point. The oil soaked in, darkened the soil, turned it slick. Your foot finds it out of habit. Your balance shifts. You catch yourself on a post and feel splinters dig into your palm. No one notices. No one asks if you're all right. Everyone's focused on not being the one who drops the bowl or wakes the baby. You make your way toward the back, near the door, where the floor is slightly higher, slightly drier. There, the earth is mixed with old straw and bits of wood shavings from someone's failed attempt at carving. The soles of your feet are calloused, but that doesn't mean they don't feel it. Every sharp edge, every cold clump, it all registers just beneath the skin, like reminders that you were never meant to walk barefoot indoors. You think about shoes. You have them, technically. A pair of stiff leather wraps tied with cord, drying by the wall near the fire. But they're too cold to wear yet, and too stiff to put on quickly. You remember how yesterday your toe bled from a crease in the leather. You'd rather let your skin suffer the mud than deal with the ache of frozen boots. Your mother used to scold you for that. She said the earth would claim you from the feet up if you let it. Maybe she was right. Maybe you're halfway there already. You walk across the house and each step reminds you that this isn't your space alone. You pass someone sleeping near the coals, snoring softly, curled inward like a question never asked. You step over a wooden bowl left too close to the wall and feel something squish beneath your heel. You don't stop to look. If it was important, someone would have moved it. If it wasn't, no one will miss it. The cold doesn't go away. It just climbs. From your feet to your calves, from your calves to your hips. Soon you're shivering again, not from fear or weakness, but from the simple fact that nothing here stays warm except fire, and you've already left that behind. You crouch to pick something off the ground, a fallen cloth, maybe a tool, and the damp seeps into your knees now. The ground smells of ash and old urine, of meat juices and rot, of spilled broth and winter mold. You take it in like you take in everything else, without resistance. Your body aches from the way you carry it. Your soles are numb now, not from relief, but from surrender. You stand again, slowly, like someone twice your age. You walk to where the water jug sits, and the floor sticks a little as you lift each foot. When you finally return to your place near the fire, you sit cross-legged and press your feet against the stones, hoping the heat will notice you. It doesn't, not right away. But you stay there anyway, because the floor will bite again. It always does. But not while you're still, not while you wait. You go looking for breakfast, though you already know there won't be any. Not really. There's no smell of food in the house, no meat simmering, no bread warming by the fire. Just the faint scent of last night's smoke and the sharper tang of fish oil that never quite leaves the air. You lift the wooden lid from the storage basket, more from habit than hope. Inside, a half-rotted turnip, soft in the middle, its skin wrinkled and bruised. You set it aside. Someone might still try to eat it later, after trimming off the worst parts. Beneath it, a few bones left from the boiled cod 3 days ago. You know they've been chewed already, but you touch them anyway. They're cold and slick, like old tools. At the bottom, a thin smear of fish fat clings to the wood. You dip a finger into it and wipe it on your tongue. It tastes like salt and old iron. It's not satisfying, but it reminds you that taste still exists. That's something. You check the wooden shelf near the fire, where someone sometimes hides dried scraps or a wedge of goat cheese if one was brought from another village. Today, there's nothing. Just a cracked bowl with a trace of porridge hardened along its rim, and a cloth that once wrapped smoked meat, but now just smells faintly of it. The bucket of water near the wall is more than half empty. You sip from a wooden ladle and feel the chill coat your throat. Your stomach tightens, not with hunger exactly, but with the memory of hunger, the way it coils around you before it fully arrives. A child stirs nearby and asks quietly if there's bread. You don't answer. It's not worth explaining. The bread ran out 2 mornings ago, and even that wasn't real bread, just coarse mash pressed into a crust and left near the fire until it hardened. You remember how quickly it vanished. You remember watching someone swallow the last piece without chewing. You tell the child to drink water instead. She does, then curls up again, as if sleep can erase the ache inside her. No one scolds you for not preparing food. There's nothing to prepare. That makes it easier, in a way. No guilt, just the slow acknowledgement of absence. Someone says they'll check the traps later. Another mumbles about fishing when the tide turns. The talk is slow, unhurried, more ritual than plan. You hear someone shift the stones near the hearth, maybe searching for a bit of charred root or something that fell in. You don't look. You know that kind of search. You've done it yourself. If you're lucky, someone might find a dried seaweed knot tucked behind a beam. You once saw an old man chew one for an hour without swallowing. He said it kept his jaw busy, and that was enough. Today, even that would be welcome. Your mouth tastes of sleep and wood smoke. You run your tongue along your teeth and feel grit. You spit into the fire, but there's not much moisture left to lose. Eventually, you give up and sit beside the wall. The others move slowly through the space and their bodies stiff, their faces flat. No one complains. Hunger is quieter than pain. It's something you carry, not something you cry out about. You remember the time a trader passed through and gave you a fig. Just one. You bit into it slowly, unsure of its texture, surprised by its sweetness. You haven't tasted anything like it since. Most days you chew to survive, not to feel. Food is no longer a thing that brings pleasure. It's a delay, a way to keep moving. Today there's no delay, just the raw feeling of nothing. Your stomach growls once, then goes quiet. It's learning too. The child asks again, this time whispering, if there will be food later. You nod. You don't know. But it's the only answer that keeps her still. And in this place, stillness is mercy. Stillness means she won't go searching, won't find the rotten turnip you left out, won't have to learn yet that some days, even pretending to eat is more than you'll get. You push the boat into the surf with shoulders already aching. The tide is low, but the waves still shove back like they know what's coming. There's no sun yet, only the bruised light of early morning and the sharp scent of salt and rot. The boat is heavy from damp and time. The others grunt beside you. No greetings, no plans, just movement. Once the boat's deep enough to float, you clamber in, careful not to soak your only dry layer. The water seeps into your boots anyway. Your hands find the oars. The wood is rough and cold, worn smooth only where the skin has polished it through years of use. You row in silence. No one speaks out here, not until the nets are down. The sea doesn't like voices, or maybe it just doesn't care. You've stopped trying to tell the difference. Every splash against the hull feels heavier than it should. Every gust of wind pushes back harder than you remember. And still you row. You cast the net with stiff fingers, the cords tangling around your wrist as they fall. The weights drag it under, slow and stubborn, as if the sea resents the intrusion. You sit back, panting, watching the ripples fade. The line cuts into your palm as you brace it. Nothing yet. Of course not. The fish don't come quickly, or they don't come at all. The boat rocks gently, then sharply, then gently again. It's never still, never safe. Your feet slide on the wet boards. You brace with your knees, gripping the side of the boat while pretending you're not cold. But the wind cuts through your clothes like you aren't even wearing any. Your fingers are already numb. You shift your grip on the line just to feel something. Anything. The salt stings the cracked skin along your knuckles. Blood mixes with brine. No one notices. No one says a word. The other boats are scattered, silhouettes against the flat gray horizon. One dips low, too low. You look away. The first tug comes late, weak. You pull, slow and steady, like you've been taught. The net resists, not from fish, but from weeds or rocks or something heavier than either. You brace again. Pull. The rope sings against the side of the boat. A splash, then another. One fish, maybe two, thrashing half dead in the cold air. You don't celebrate. You don't even smile. You drop them into the wooden box beside you and cast again. The second time, the net catches nothing. The third, it snags on something you can't see. You pull anyway, risking the rope, risking the net. The weight is too much. You let it go. You curse low and flat. The wind carries it nowhere. Your arms burn from pulling. Your back protests every twist. You wipe your nose with your sleeve and taste blood again. Or maybe salt. There's no difference anymore. The sea never gives easily. And when it does, it takes something with it. You return to shore hours later with barely enough to call a catch. The others don't ask how you did. They can see it in your face, in your limp, in the way your hands won't open properly. You drag the boat onto the sand and let it sit, too tired to care if the tide eats it. You carry the fish in a wicker basket, the smell already clinging to your skin. You'll gut them later. Or someone else will, if they're hungrier than you. The wind follows you all the way to the longhouse. Your clothes are wet. Your bones are wet. Your soul feels damp, like something left out too long. You sit by the fire and don't speak. Someone hands you a bowl of hot water. Not soup, just water. You drink it slowly. No one praises your work. No one thanks you. That's not how this village works. You went out. You came back. That's all that matters for today. Tomorrow you'll row again, and the sea will still be waiting, cold, patient, unkind. The fire burns, but not well. The wood is damp again, always damp, and the smoke doesn't rise the way it should. Instead, it spills out across the room, curling low around ankles and knees, then climbing slowly until it clings to your face like wet cloth. You sit near the hearth, watching the thin line of flame struggle for breath beneath a log that hisses more than it burns. The smoke stings your eyes, not sharply, not all at once, but with the steady persistence of something that knows it will win. Your throat scratches. Your chest tightens. You shift away. But there's nowhere else to go. The whole longhouse is thick with it. The gaps between the timbers let in wind but not escape. The roof beam above the fire is dark with years of soot. And every time someone opens the door, the smoke shifts, then settles again, like it never left. You cough quietly into your sleeve. No one notices. Everyone's coughing. It's just another sound in the rhythm of the house. The children feel it first. Their small lungs betray them, too quick to fill, too slow to clear. One of the younger ones sits near the back wall, pressed against a fur rug that's long since lost its softness. He wheezes without knowing he's doing it. A wet, sticky sound that cuts through the silence more than words ever could. His mother doesn't move. She's stirring something in a pot. Water, mostly, with a sliver of onion and a pinch of old fat. She doesn't look up when he coughs again. You can't tell if it's indifference or simply routine. The baby nearest the door lets out a sharp cry, then falls silent, choking briefly on the air before trying again. You've heard that sound before. It doesn't alarm you anymore. You remember when it did. You remember the panic the first time the smoke filled your lungs and you couldn't breathe. Now you just endure. You try not to take deep breaths. You try to keep your head below the densest part of the cloud. But it's always there. Always waiting. The smell never leaves you. It settles in your clothes, in your hair, in the cracks of your skin. Even when you go outside, the wind can't carry it all away. You've stopped noticing it mostly. But sometimes, when someone new comes through the village, a trader maybe, you see the way they wrinkle their nose. That's how you remember what you've become used to. Your fingers smell like ash, even after scrubbing them with snow. Your hair feels greasy from the smoke and the sweat it traps. When you lie down at night, the roof above you creaks softly, and a bit of soot will sometimes fall onto your face. You don't brush it away. There's no point. The smoke is part of the house, part of your life. It heats, yes, but weakly. It fails to warm the walls, the corners, the bones. It never rises fast enough to escape. It just lingers, just hovers, just burns slow and low, like everything else. Someone adds more wood to the fire, and the room goes darker for a moment. The smoke thickens before thinning again. It's worse in winter, when nothing dries, when even the kindling feels soggy before you touch it. Sometimes someone jokes that the fire drinks more water than the people do, but no one laughs. You rub your chest with the heel of your hand and feel how tight it's become. The old woman near the far wall hasn't spoken in hours. She just sits, wrapped in a blanket, staring into the smoke like it owes her something. Maybe it does, maybe it owes all of you. You close your eyes briefly, just to give them relief. But the sting lingers. It's in the fabric of the house now, soaked into the beams, into the blankets, into your lungs. You open your mouth, breathe through it, and say nothing. Because there's no fixing it. The fire has to burn. The smoke has to stay. And if you can breathe around it, even a little, then that's good enough for today. The rope is frayed again. You run your thumb along the split in the fibers and feel how deep it goes. Someone coiled it carelessly, left it near the wet wall, let the damp sink in and the cold finish the job. You don't ask who. You just sit down and start fixing it. The fibers are rough, packed with old salt and stiff from use. They scratch your palms as you untwist the loose end and start to weave it back together. It's not the first time this week. It won't be the last. You mend because someone has to. You mend because no one else will. You mend because the next time it snaps, it could be during a haul, or during a storm, or with someone's life on the end of it. There's no ceremony in the work, just repetition. One loop, one knot, one tug at a time. You've done it enough to stop thinking while your hands move. When the rope is done, there's the net. Someone let it drag over rocks again, tore half the mesh along the bottom. You don't even curse. You just sigh through your teeth and spread it out over your knees. The holes gape like small mouths. You thread new line with fingers that still sting from the last task. The cold helps dulls the pain. You tighten each knot and wonder how long it will last. If they're careful, maybe a week. If not, 2 days. You could say something, but no one wants a lecture. They want the work done, and you want quiet. So you keep your head down and fix what's broken. The net twists as you pull it straight. Your shoulders ache. Your eyes blur from the focus. A child runs past you and steps on the corner of the net. You pause, let the anger settle in your chest, and keep going. You've learned not to react. Everything here is fragile, even tempers. Outside, the sky has turned the color of rust. Someone calls your name, points toward the roof. Another leak, the fourth this season. You climb the side of the house slowly, your joints protesting each movement. The ladder shifts under your weight. One rung is cracked, the next one splinters. You note it silently. Another thing to mend. On the roof, the sod is slipping again. Rain and wind have peeled it back, letting water creep into the beams. You press it back into place, pack it with mud and straw, push stones along the edge to hold it. Your fingers sink into the cold, wet earth. It sticks under your nails. You don't flinch. You've been dirtier. A gust of wind catches your coat and nearly pulls you sideways. You brace against it, breathing slow, letting it pass. The wind is always there, like the work. You finish what you can, knowing it won't hold for long. But long enough is all anyone hopes for. Back on the ground, someone shows you a cracked handle on a water bucket. You nod, take it, set it aside for tomorrow. You've already worked past the meal. Not that it was worth stopping for. The stew was thin, and the bread mostly memory. Your back tightens as you straighten. You look at your hands and barely recognize them. Dry, split, always moving. You hear someone hammering in the distance. Another repair. Another pair of hands doing what must be done. You're not alone in this. But it doesn't feel like company. It feels like a shared weight, passed silently from one to the next. You sit near the fire and rub your shoulders. The rope sits neatly coiled beside you, the net folded and ready. No one will thank you. No one will mention your name. But when they haul the fish tomorrow and nothing breaks, someone will nod. Maybe, if they remember. And if they don't, the sea will. The sea always knows what was made with care and what was left to rot. The piglet is already cold when you find it, curled near the edge of the pen, half covered in old straw, its small body stiff and wet from the night's frost. You watch it for a moment, just to be sure, waiting for some twitch of breath, some sound. But there's nothing. Just silence and the faint sour smell of sickness that never fully leaves the pens. You kneel beside it slowly, knees pressing into the frozen mud. The other pigs shuffle away from you, snorting softly, as if they know. You pick up the body carefully. It's light, lighter than it should be. You can feel the ribs through the skin. The ears are stiff. The legs dangle uselessly. You wrap it in a bit of old cloth and hold it close. Not out of tenderness. Not really. But because it feels wrong to let it swing. You stand, straighten your back, and look toward the tree line. That's where the ground is softest. You dig with a flat stone because the shovel broke last week and no one's fixed it. The earth is stubborn, half frozen in places, but you find a patch beneath a mossy stump where it yields enough to work. The hole doesn't need to be deep, just far enough to keep the dogs away and the smell down. You work slowly, not because of grief, but because of fatigue. Your arms are already sore from splitting wood this morning. Now the muscles in your back join the chorus of complaint. The stone slips in your hand. You shift your grip. The cloth around the piglet is starting to soak through, staining dark where the belly split sometime in the night. You look away, not because you're squeamish. You've killed animals before. You've gutted fish, skinned rabbits, cracked bones to boil the marrow. But this one was meant to live. This one had a name, given by a child, laughed at by the others. Still, a name. You lower it into the hole when it's done, gently, because there's no reason not to. The cloth clings to your hands as you let go. You don't say anything. No prayer, no farewell. Just a pause, a breath. Then you begin covering it. The dirt makes a soft sound as it falls, a dull rhythm against the fabric. You press it down with your palms, patting it smooth, trying not to think about how long it took to raise this one, how many scraps it ate, how many times it squealed when someone tried to lift it. You think about the stew it won't become, about the fat you won't have for winter, about the bones that won't boil. It wasn't a feast, but it was something. Now it's just a hole. You wipe your hands on your coat and sit for a moment on a fallen log, staring at the little mound. The forest makes no sound but the rustle of dry branches. The sky above is dull and low. You feel tired in a way that has nothing to do with work. You return to the village slower than you left. Your boots are heavy with mud. Someone sees you and doesn't ask. They already know. They saw it coming, same as you. You pass the pen and avoid looking at the others. They're rooting around in the muck, snorting and grunting, unaware of what's missing, or pretending to be. You walk past the shed where the feed is stored, and you wonder if any of it was moldy, if maybe that's what did it, or if it was just the cold, or just bad luck. The door to the longhouse creaks as you enter. The air inside is thick with smoke and silence. You sit near the fire and don't speak. Someone hands you a wooden bowl, half full with something warm and gray. You eat without tasting. You chew slowly, methodically, like someone counting. No one mentions the piglet. But when night falls and the cold presses in again, someone places another log on the fire without being asked. And in that small motion, there's something close to kindness, not comfort, but the shape of it. And for now, that's enough. The wind finds you, even inside. It slips through the walls like it was born in them, weaving through every gap between logs, every split in the dried moss packed into the seams. You sit near the hearth, wrapped in layers of wool, skins, and your own arms, and still you feel it. Thin, needling, alive. It presses against your spine, seeps into the spaces behind your knees, creeps up your sleeves when you're not paying attention. At first you ignore it. You always do, but it doesn't go away. It lingers, testing your patience, reminding you that the house is not sealed, the walls not solid, and nothing between you and the outside world is truly thick enough. Someone tries to block the worst of it with an old board nailed across a crack, but the wind just laughs and moves elsewhere. You pull your blanket tighter and try to sit still, hoping stillness might be mistaken for warmth. But the wind isn't fooled. It knows where to find you. At night, it grows bolder. You lie curled on your mat, face turned toward the wall, and you hear it scratching against the roof, whispering along the beams, dragging a constant cold breath across your cheek. You cover your head with the edge of a sheepskin, but it does nothing. The wind is already under your skin. You cough once quietly, then again harder. Your chest rattles. The tightness in your throat hasn't left for days. You tell yourself it's nothing, just the air, just the damp. But you've known too many people who began like this and ended with silence. You hear someone else across the room wheezing in sleep, breath wet and uneven. The children cough too, short and sharp. It's always worse for them. There's no escape. Even in the thickest furs, the cold presses inward, carried on the same wind that finds your bones no matter how deep you bury them under blankets. The fire helps, but only if you're close, and you're not close enough. By morning, your joints ache like they've been grinding all night. Your neck is stiff, and your nose burns with every breath. When you sit up, the wind greets you again, playful now, curling around your ankles and across your scalp where your hair thinned during the last fever. You rub your arms, already knowing they won't warm. Outside, the wind is louder, but it's the same one, just wearing a different voice. You walk across the longhouse and feel it follow you. It moves like a thing with memory. You think about the crack under the back wall, the one no one has time to fix. Or maybe it's the roof again. The thatch is old, and when the snow melts and refreezes, it leaves spaces wide enough for fingers or for wind. You boil water just to hold the heat in your hands, not because you're thirsty. You sip it anyway, and it does nothing for your throat. The warmth dies before it reaches your chest. You stop pretending it's going to pass. The cough settles deeper. The soreness in your back flares every time you bend. You still work, of course. Everyone does. No one stops for sickness. You carry logs from the shed, each one harder than the last. You fetch water and feel the wind tear through the hole in your sleeve like it was waiting there. Your skin is dry and cracked at the knuckles, red from cold and friction. You dream of warm rooms sometimes, of fires that fill a space with heat instead of smoke, of walls that don't whisper. But you don't speak of it. No one does. Dreams are useless here. They warm nothing. Instead, you wrap another cloth around your neck, smear tallow on your chest like your mother used to, and pretend that rest will come soon. It won't. Not until the wind forgets you, and the wind, like hunger, has a long memory. You live with it now, inside you, beneath your skin. And still, you rise. Because cold isn't the enemy. It's just part of the house. Part of you. You stink. Not suddenly, not dramatically, just constantly. Like smoke, sweat, damp wool, fish, and time. The smell clings to you the way your clothes do, and those haven't been truly clean in months. You haven't bathed since the river thawed, and that was only because someone dared you. The water then was so cold it numbed your limbs for hours, and when you came out shivering, no one was impressed. No one thanked you. They just laughed. Since then, you've wiped your hands with snow and rubbed your face with cloth. But that's not cleaning. That's pretending. The filth lives deeper than the surface now, worked into the lines of your palms, behind your ears, between your toes. It's part of you. You shift your weight and the scent rises again, stale and sharp. You don't wrinkle your nose. You don't notice anymore. The body stops protesting when there's nothing to compare it to. Everyone smells. It's not a shame. It's not a secret. It's simply truth. You can tell who's been working with fish, who slept too close to the fire, who hasn't emptied the latrine pit yet. The odors overlap in the longhouse. Sour breath, old leather, burned meat, wet dogs, children who wet themselves in sleep, and the inescapable reek of unwashed skin. You live in it. You breathe through it. It coats your tongue until everything tastes the same. Once, a trader passed through and held a cloth to his nose the whole time he bartered. You watched him like a man from another world, with teeth too white and hands too soft. When he left, someone called him a coward. You didn't speak, but part of you agreed. You may stink, but you're still here, still standing, still working. And he isn't. He's gone. Back to wherever people think they're clean. Your scalp itches. It always does. You drag your nails through your hair and feel the grit, the sweat, the movement. Lice, probably. Fleas, certainly. But you don't flinch. Everyone has them. You see children scratching without even thinking. You see women pick through each other's hair by the firelight, flicking something into the coals. It hisses as it burns. You've seen worse. You've smelled worse. Once, a wound on someone's leg turned black and started to stink like spoiled meat. That smell drove people away. That smell meant death. Yours just means life. Ordinary, tired, working life. You shift your shirt and smell your own chest. Leather, smoke, dried sweat, old wool. Nothing new, nothing alarming. The thought of soap makes you laugh, quietly, to yourself. Soap is a luxury. Soap is for rituals or guests. You are neither. You are just one more body in a house full of bodies, and all of them are the same. There is a strange kind of peace in it. To stink and not care. To live beyond shame. You remember faintly a time when it bothered you. When you blushed if someone turned away, when you scrubbed your armpits with bark or tried to dry your socks over the fire to keep the smell down. That time is gone. Now you save your energy. Now you let the rain wash you when it comes. Now you know that survival leaves no room for vanity. The only time the smell really matters is when you're trying to track something, or when the dogs start to follow you too closely, hoping for scraps. But even then, it's a matter of caution, not pride. You stink. Everyone does. And in this place, that's not a flaw. It's just another proof you're alive. Another layer of the season clinging to your skin. And when night comes, and you curl beneath the same blanket as 3 other people, you don't think about how they smell. You think about how close the fire is, and how long it might last. You speak the names quietly, the old names, the ones your grandfather whispered when he thought no one listened. You don't shout them, don't chant. You murmur them into your breath as you crouch near the edge of the woods, hands cold, heart slow. You don't ask for much, a dry day, a steady catch, a roof beam that doesn't split in the night. Maybe, if you dare, you ask for your brother to come back from wherever the winter took him. You don't even ask for safety, not really, just survival. And still, nothing answers. The wind moves through the trees like it always does. The branches creak. Somewhere a crow calls. You wait a moment longer, then stand. There is no sign. There never is. But you pray again tomorrow anyway. Not out of faith, out of rhythm. There are small tokens near the fire pit. Bits of bone, carved wood, scraps of iron too bent to be useful. You're not the only one. Others leave things there when no one is looking. A fishtail, a feather, a bead. You don't speak about it. No one does. The offerings aren't requests. They're reminders. Proof that someone here still remembers the stories, still believes that somewhere beyond the gray sky and gray sea, something listens. But nothing speaks back. Not in dreams, not in signs, not in any way that matters when the roof leaks or the child coughs through the night. You look into the smoke and wait for something to form. A face, a figure, a word. But the smoke just rises, heavy and thick, and clings to the beams until your eyes sting. You blink and the feeling passes. Just smoke, just the day, just you. Sometimes, when no one's around, you go to the old stump on the ridge. It's split now, weathered, half swallowed by moss. Someone said it was once a sacred tree. Maybe. Maybe not. But it's quiet there. You sit and speak softly, more to yourself than to anything else. You say names, old and new. You mention the dead, the missing, the ones you wish you could forget. You ask nothing, not anymore. You just name them. It feels like something, like memory, like defiance, like grief with a mouth. You press your palm to the stump, feel the rough grain of it, and think about all the voices lost in the wind. The gods, if they ever lived here, are long gone. Or maybe they stayed and just went quiet. Tired of being asked, tired of being blamed. You can't fault them. You'd do the same. And yet, when the sky turns strange, or the sea pulls back too far, you still look up, you still wonder. You still feel that twitch in your stomach like someone's watching. It's habit, maybe, or hope, or fear. You keep the talisman near your bed, bone wrapped in cord, carved with lines whose meaning is half forgotten. You don't touch it often, but you don't throw it away either. It feels wrong to sleep without it. Not because you believe it works, but because something in you remembers when you did. That child in you, the one who thought the storm listened, still lives behind your ribs. Quiet, small, waiting. So you keep naming the old ones, one breath at a time, into the silence. And the silence never answers. But it never leaves either. It just stays. And so do you. The crying starts before dawn and doesn't stop. A thin, reedy sound at first, like a whistle through dry reeds. Then it grows louder, more jagged, pulling the silence apart stitch by stitch. The child is small, barely a season old, and her lungs work harder than they should for something so tiny. You lie still at first, hoping someone else will move, that a mother's hand or a wet rag will calm the noise. But nothing changes. The sound keeps going, sharp and shrill, as if the child herself is made of pain. You sit up slowly, eyes half closed, limbs aching from yesterday's work. The fire's nearly out. The air in the longhouse is thick and cold. The child cries again, and this time her voice cracks, a rasping edge that scrapes at your bones. Someone across the room groans but doesn't move. Everyone hears it. No one knows what to do. She's not yours. Her mother sits nearby, back curved, face gray with exhaustion. Her arms are wrapped around the child, swaying gently, as if motion alone might trick the baby into quiet. The woman's eyes are open but unfocused, staring into the space between smoke and beam. The blanket over the child is too thin, and the girl's skin is flushed in patches, too warm in some places, too cold in others. Fever, maybe, or hunger, or both. You've seen enough babies to know the difference, and yet you still can't be sure. The mother rocks, and the baby cries, and the rest of the house tries to pretend this isn't happening. A man shifts closer to the wall and pulls his cloak over his head. Someone rubs their temple, teeth clenched. No one speaks. Words would only make it louder. You want to help, or maybe just to stop hearing. You press your hands to your ears, then let them fall. The sound cuts through everything. By midday, the crying becomes hoarse, not softer, just broken. Each gasp rattles like the child is trying to cough, but doesn't know how. The mother finally lays her down, only for a moment, to fetch water from the pot. The baby flails, fists balled, mouth wide, face red and wet. You see the ribs through her skin. The pot is nearly empty. The fire too weak to warm more. The water goes in a spoon, slow drops between the sobs, most of it dribbling back down her chin. The crying doesn't stop. You look at the others. No one meets your eye. This is not new. This is not rare. Children cry, and sometimes they keep crying until they don't. You remember a winter when two babies went quiet on the same night. One from cold, one from something worse. Their mothers sat by the fire the next morning like statues, arms empty, eyes dry. You were younger then. You thought it meant something. Now you know it just happens. As the sky darkens again, the child still screams. Her voice is nearly gone, but her body hasn't given up. The mother rocks her harder now, whispering soft words you can't hear. Not prayers, just noise to fill the gap. The rest of you move through the space like ghosts, stepping around them, speaking in gestures. You chew your food with your mouth closed. You stoke the fire in silence. You avoid the corner where the crying never stops. When you lie down, the sound follows you. A high, broken thread that winds through the night and pulls at the back of your skull. You wrap your blanket tighter, press your hand over your heart, and stare at the ceiling until the beams blur. Maybe the baby will sleep. Maybe she won't. Maybe you'll wake tomorrow and the crying will be over. But even if it ends, it won't leave. It stays in your ears long after the voice that made it is gone. The sound carries through the wall. First a voice, then another, louder, sharper. You don't make out the words, not all of them, but the tone is enough. A man shouting. A woman answering, not shouting back, but not quiet either. Then something heavy hits the ground, or the wall, or someone's back. You pause, hand resting on the handle of the door, and listen. Just for a second. Long enough to hear the next sound, a muffled cry, low and full of hurt. It might be pain. It might be anger. It might be fear. Then silence. You glance at the others in your house, but no one looks up. No one moves. Someone stirs the pot. Someone sharpens a blade. The only one who reacts is the dog, ears twitching at the noise before curling back up on the dirt floor. You don't say anything. Neither does anyone else. You step outside, slowly, pretending you didn't notice, like the rest of them. The wind is strong tonight, but not strong enough to cover what comes next. Another thud, then quieter voices, pleading or warning, you can't tell. You walk past the neighbor's house without slowing. The door is closed, the shutter crooked. A small, broken shape of a child sits just inside, legs drawn up, face hidden in her arms. You catch a glimpse before she turns away. You say nothing. You walk on. The path is muddy from yesterday's rain. Your boots sink in with every step, and the sky above is the color of iron. You pretend to study the clouds. Anything to keep from looking at the house again. Someone passes you going the other way, eyes fixed on the ground. He heard it too. Everyone did. No one asks. No one offers. You make it to the shed and stay there longer than you need to, sorting tools that don't need sorting, counting sacks that haven't changed in weeks. When the wind shifts, you smell wood smoke and something fainter, old blood or maybe just fear. It settles in the nose and won't wash out. When you return, the longhouse is quieter than before. Someone has added wood to the fire, and the flames crackle like nothing's wrong. You sit near the edge and eat in silence. The food is bland, but it fills the space in your mouth that might otherwise speak. A man near the door coughs once, then again, deeper. No one offers him water. there's barely enough. The children are already curled in their places, staring into the dark or drawing shapes in the dirt with dull fingers. You notice one of them watching you, watching your eyes to see if you'll say anything, to see if adults still do things when things go wrong. You don't. You lower your gaze and finish your food. When you lie down, you curl your back to the wall that touches theirs. That way you can't hear if someone is still crying. That way you can sleep, or at least pretend to. In the morning, nothing is said. The man from the house comes out with a basket of fish and speaks to someone about the nets. The woman carries water, her face unreadable, her lips split just enough to notice if you're looking for it. The child isn't outside. You don't ask. No one does. You go about your tasks, fixing what's broken, lifting what's heavy, trading a word or two when needed. In the village, grief is private. Pain is invisible unless it kills you. And even then, the dead are buried without questions. You've learned that silence is a kind of respect. Or maybe it's fear, or habit, or exhaustion. It doesn't matter. You hear everything, but you say nothing, because you know your turn will come. And when it does, the neighbors will walk by your house the same way. Eyes low, mouths closed, pretending they didn't hear. Because here, everyone has their own walls, and behind every wall, something breaks. The path between the houses is mud again. Not just wet earth, but something worse. Thick, shifting, alive in the way rot is alive. It never truly dries, not even in summer. And now, after 2 days of rain and 1 night of frost, it's turned into a slick, heavy paste that clings to your boots and pulls at your balance with every step. You know the spot. Everyone does. Just past the water trough, where the slope dips slightly before the ground rises again near the animal pens. That spot has swallowed more feet than memory can hold. Boards were laid there once, years ago, but they sank or split or vanished, taken by the same mud they were meant to fight. You tell yourself you'll walk wide this time, step through the grass to the left, where the ground might hold. But your arms are full, and your legs are tired, and the mind forgets what the body always remembers, until it's too late. Your foot slides, slow at first, then sudden. A lurch, a twist, the unmistakable snap of muscle straining where it shouldn't. You drop what you were carrying, firewood, maybe, or a basket of scraps, and your hands reach out too late to stop the fall. The mud takes you without resistance. It catches your knee, your hip, your shoulder. The cold seeps in immediately, through the cloth, through the skin, into the bone. You lie there for a breath, or maybe 2, the air knocked out of you, your pride somewhere in the dirt beside you. You don't cry out. No one does anymore. A man slips in silence. A woman grunts. A child stumbles, and the rest look away. You push yourself up slowly, the weight of your clothes doubled now by water and shame. Mud cakes your sleeves. It drips from your elbows. You don't bother brushing it off. It will be back tomorrow. The path doesn't forgive, and it certainly doesn't forget. Someone watches from a doorway. Not long, just enough to see you fall, just enough to turn away before you stand. They won't mention it later. You won't either, but both of you will remember. Not as a moment of cruelty, just routine. This place is full of small humiliations that never get spoken aloud. You gather what you dropped, one item at a time, fingers clumsy and cold. A piece of wood split on impact. The basket is bent. You fix what you can and carry the rest like it still matters. Your back hurts now. You'll feel it tonight when you try to lie flat. You tell yourself to avoid that spot next time. You know you won't. No one ever does. The mud knows your name. The earth waits for your weight. It always does. When you reach the door, your legs are shaking. Your clothes drip onto the floor as you step inside. No one says anything. A child glances at your knees, then back at the fire. You stand near the hearth to warm yourself, but the heat only reaches the outside. The cold stays beneath your skin, where the fall left its mark. Someone offers you a rag. You take it. You wipe your hands, your face, not to be clean, just to feel human again. The mud is still there, in the seams, in the cracks, under your nails. It always is. You sit down, slowly, carefully, and let the warmth take what it can. Tomorrow, you'll walk the same path, and the mud will wait, and you will fall again. And no one will be surprised, least of all you. Because in this village, the ground remembers, and it always gets what it's owed. The bread is old, not in the way food often is here, dry or tough or stale, but truly old. The kind of old that carries smell before taste, the kind that grows green around the edges and blue deeper in. You unwrap it slowly, carefully, like it might still surprise you. It doesn't. The cloth is damp from the morning's air, and the crust has softened in places it never should. You press your thumb into it, and the dough sinks inward without resistance. No crunch, no weight, just the soft give of wrought beginning. You know this bread. You remember when it was made, 3 days ago, maybe 4. The flour was stretched too thin, bulked with ground bark and old oats. The oven didn't hold heat that day. Firewood was scarce. You told yourself it would still rise, that the smell would fill the longhouse, that something would feel normal again. But it didn't. The fire faltered, and the dough never truly cooked. It sat, pale and dense, and waited to become what it is now. You break off a piece anyway, not because you want to, but because there's nothing else. Hunger makes decisions before thought does. You inspect it briefly, pull away the softest parts, the greenest parts, and flick them into the fire. The flames sizzle but don't rise. The moldy bits curl like insects before vanishing. What's left is still damp, still wrong, but you put it in your mouth and chew. It sticks to your teeth, tastes like ash and earth. Your stomach turns, gently at first, then more urgently. You swallow anyway. The second bite is no better. You close your eyes to make it go down. Across the room, someone watches. They don't say anything. They have their own bread. It's no different. You both pretend it's food. You both chew like people trying to remember how meals used to feel. You used to laugh when bread was warm. You used to save the crust for last. Now you just eat what doesn't rot too fast. The others tear their bread in silence. A child picks at hers, scraping off the surface mold with a fingernail, then licking her fingers after. Her mother slaps her hand away, but not with anger. Just habit. You see the hesitation in everyone's eyes. Who will finish theirs first? Who will find the worst patch? Who will throw theirs out? And who will pick it back up when no one's looking? No one talks about the mold. Naming it makes it harder to eat. Someone coughs near the hearth, the sound sharp and hollow. The bread sticks in your throat. You reach for the water bowl and sip, but the liquid does nothing to help. The taste lingers, sour and metallic. You chew more slowly now, each bite a task. Your hands shake slightly as you lift the last piece. You look at it for a long time. You don't want it. You eat it anyway. Not because it's food, but because not eating it would be waste. And waste is worse than sickness. Later, you bury the scraps. Not deep, just behind the house where the pigs used to root. You pretend the mold won't spread. You pretend the next loaf will be better, even though the grain sack is almost empty and the next flour will be more bark than grain. You walk back inside with the same slow steps, your stomach gurgling, your breath tight. Someone asks if there's more. You shake your head. They nod. You sit down near the fire and stretch your legs, the taste still coating your mouth. It's not disgust you feel. It's defeat. But quiet. Dull. Familiar. The kind that doesn't make you cry or shout. Just sit a little lower, speak a little less. Tomorrow you'll bake again. Or try. And maybe it'll mold faster. Or maybe you'll eat it before it can. Either way, it doesn't matter. You'll still call it bread. Because calling it anything else would mean admitting how far you've fallen. And that's harder to swallow than mold. You keep a piece of salt in your pocket. Not in a pouch or wrapped in cloth, just loose like a stone or a worry. It's small, jagged, rough on the tongue when you press it between your teeth. Not for flavor. That's long gone. You chew it because it keeps you awake. Because it keeps your mind sharp when your limbs want to fold and your head tilts towards sleep like a falling tree. The mornings start in darkness, and the days never grow warm. Your body drags behind your thoughts, and your thoughts drag behind the weight of routine. When there's too much cold, too much smoke, too much silence, the salt gives you something real to hold on to. You bite down and it stings your gums. It cuts your tongue. And for a few moments, you feel alive in a way that isn't numb or aching. It brings tears to your eyes, sharp ones, fast ones. You don't wipe them away. You found the habit last winter, after a night too long and a shift on watch that nearly ended with you asleep on your feet. You'd nearly dropped the torch. Nearly missed the sound of a pig getting restless outside the pen. You grabbed a pinch of salt from the barrel in the corner of the longhouse, desperate, and bit into it without thinking. It burned, then woke something in your chest. Since then, it's become ritual, not comfort, not superstition, just a trick. Your tongue is raw now, dotted with tiny sores where the salt rubbed too hard. But they don't matter. Pain is better than sleep sometimes. Sleep is heavy, slow, tempting. Sleep is what steals people in the middle of the day when there's still work to do. You've seen it happen. Someone sitting near the fire, nodding once, then twice, then falling over without warning. Not from peace, but from emptiness. You chew salt because you're not ready to be empty yet. It doesn't taste like food. It tastes like the sea, like iron, like old wood and dried meat. It grinds between your molars and cuts into the soft parts behind your lips. You spit sometimes, small flecks of white when it's too sharp to swallow. The others know what you're doing. Some of them do it too. You see the way their jaws move, slow and rhythmic, like they're gnawing through memory. No one comments. No one asks where you got it. Salt is rare, but not sacred. There's always a bit left near the bottom of the barrel, the dust from meat curing or fish drying. You gather it with the edge of your knife and shape it into a small clump, solid enough to press against your teeth. When the fire burns low, and the wind presses against the longhouse like a hand, that salt becomes your fire. You hold it on your tongue and feel the heat spread, not real, but close enough. Later, when the day is done and you've outlasted the cold, the ache, the voices in your head telling you to lie down and let the dark take over, you'll spit the last of it into the fire. It will hiss and vanish, leaving no trace. Your mouth will sting, your jaw will ache. You'll run your tongue over cracked skin and feel the rough edge where blood meets salt. But you'll be upright. You'll have finished what needed finishing. That's the only reward here. Not rest, not pride. Just completion. Just the knowledge that you endured one more hour, one more task, one more moment when your body wanted to collapse. You don't love the salt, but you respect it, because it stays sharp when everything else goes dull, and because it keeps you from slipping into that long, slow sleep that takes people before they know they're tired. You'll wake again tomorrow, and if the world is still too heavy, you'll chew another shard and wait for the sting. It starts with a question. Has anyone seen him? The voice is casual at first, half-hearted, the way people ask about a misplaced knife or a missing boot. He was just outside, someone says, near the goats, maybe down by the stream. You glance out the door, expecting to see the boy's head bobbing between the huts, maybe crouched near the woodpile, hands busy with something he shouldn't be touching. But he's not there. Someone else calls his name, louder now. The tone shifts, not panic, just unease. Mothers begin to look at one another. A father sets down his knife mid-whittle. The door to the longhouse opens wider. You step outside, drawn by the change in air. A third voice calls, then silence. Then the wind. It brushes through the branches like it always does, soft but indifferent. And the woods beyond the village stand still, waiting. You feel the cold more sharply now. The search begins without discussion. It always does. You grab your cloak, your boots, your knife. Not to fight, but because walking into the forest without it feels wrong. A few others join you. 3 men, 1 woman. No one says who should lead. You fan out slowly, calling his name, scanning the underbrush for movement, for fabric, for the shape of a small body huddled beneath a tree. You listen for footsteps, for rustling, for crying. But the woods offer only birdsong and the steady drip of water from last night's rain. You find tracks, small, uncertain, leading away from the goat pen. They twist once, twice, then vanish beneath a patch of rotting leaves. Someone curses under their breath. You all keep walking. The branches scratch your arms. The thorns catch your sleeves. The ground gives way beneath your boots in places, sucking at your heels. Time stretches. You call his name again and again. The trees do not answer. You remember a story like this from years ago. A different child. A different day. Same forest. The boy had wandered off after a rabbit, they said. Never came back. They found a shoe weeks later, stuck in the crook of a tree root. Just the shoe. After that, people started marking their children's arms with bits of red thread. Some still do. You think about that now as the light shifts above you, the sky dimming in that quiet, merciless way it always does too early. Someone ahead raises a hand. You all stop. A sound. Movement? No, just a branch settling under its own weight. You move on. The search grows slower, more careful. You're listening harder now, not for the boy, but for anything else. Wolves, a bear, something worse. But there's nothing. Only the creak of trees and the scrape of boots over old stone. No one says it out loud, but you all feel it. He's been gone too long. Eventually, someone says they'll head back. Another agrees. The third follows. You don't argue. The forest is thick, and the village needs tending. You turn around, steps heavier than before, and walk slowly out of the trees. The boy's mother stands near the fire when you return. She looks up without hope. You shake your head once. She nods. No tears. No collapse. Just the silence of someone who already knew. People gather, but no one comforts her. Not directly. A woman puts more wood on the fire. A man offers her his coat. She sits down. The night comes. The doors shut. The boy's name is not spoken again that evening. Maybe tomorrow, someone will try again. Maybe someone already knows where he is and just hasn't said. Or maybe the forest took him, as it sometimes does. No reason, no message, just absence. And in this place, absence is its own kind of presence. Heavy, permanent, quiet as moss. He sits across from you, mending a net he broke last week. His hands move with the same rhythm they always have. Practical, patient, not graceful, but certain. You watch the fingers, the way they tie each knot, the way they pull the line tight. You used to like those hands. You remember thinking they looked strong, capable, like they could hold the world together if it tried to fall apart. Now they just look tired and familiar, too familiar, as if every movement is something you've seen 100 times and no longer care to see again. He doesn't speak, not because he's angry or distracted, but because silence has long since replaced conversation. Words are for new people, for strangers. You are not strangers, but you are not close either. You are something in between, worn into place like stones in a path, side by side, always touching, never changing. You married him because that's what was expected. Your families spoke. Livestock was counted, agreements made. It was not a bad match. He wasn't cruel. He didn't drink too much or hit or vanish for days. He worked. He brought fish. He built the bench you still sit on. But you never loved him, and he never asked you to. At first, you thought something would grow, kindness maybe, or warmth. You waited for softness, for laughter that wasn't meant for others. But the years went by, and what came instead was routine. He brings the wood. You grind the grain. He says your name when something breaks. You nod when food is ready. You share a bed without touching, except in winter, or when the need comes. It's not painful. It's not violent. It's just there. Mechanical. Brief. Then sleep. Then another day. You used to speak more. About small things. Weather. Trade. Whose child got sick, which roof leaked. Those words faded slowly, worn down by repetition and silence, like wind smoothing the bark from old wood. Now when you speak, it's usually about tasks. Can you patch this? Will you bring water? Don't forget the trap by the stream. He answers, always, but without tone. As if your voice is just another sound in the village, no more important than the wind or the chickens. You don't blame him. You're the same. Sometimes you wonder what would happen if you left. not ran, not fled, just quietly walked away. You imagine him waking, sitting by the hearth, waiting for food, realizing you were gone, and doing nothing, just waiting until someone else came to fill the space. That thought stays with you more than it should, and yet, you don't leave. You sit beside him when he eats. You patch his shirt. You hand him salt. Because that's what you do, because leaving isn't freedom here. It's hunger, danger, cold. You're not angry, not anymore. Anger takes energy, and you've spent yours long ago. Now there's only a slow, dull ache beneath your ribs, the kind that flares sometimes when you hear someone else laugh, really laugh, or see a couple touch in a way that means something. But even that fades quickly. You go back to your chores, to the walls, to the man across the fire who once was new and now is nothing more than necessary. And when night falls and you lie side by side in silence, you stare into the dark and wonder if he's awake too, if he remembers what it felt like to expect something more. And if he does, whether he's grateful that he doesn't anymore. Just like you. It starts with hoofbeats, distant but wrong, not the steady rhythm of travel, faster, uneven, urgent. You stop what you're doing, splitting fish, tying bundles, whatever it was, because the air changes. People step out of their homes, eyes narrowing, shoulders tightening, as if the wind itself carried warning. The sound grows closer. 3 riders, maybe 4. You can't tell. But they're not from here. Their cloaks are too clean, their horses too lean, their faces half hidden beneath hair and shadow. No one speaks when they arrive. No one greets them. They don't ask. They dismount like men who know their place, who know they'll be fed because no one wants to test what happens if they're not. Someone brings water. Someone else meat. You watch from a distance, heart slow but heavy. Visitors are rare. Visitors like these come even less. And when they do, they always leave with something more than what they brought. The shouting starts in the evening. Not loud, not theatrical, just sharp, focused. A voice you know, Eric probably, demanding answers about an old insult, a trade gone wrong, a woman, a brother, land. No one knows exactly. Maybe even he doesn't. The strangers respond with quiet words, low and dangerous, like men who've already chosen violence and are waiting for someone else to say it first. A push, a punch, a blade drawn more for memory than threat. You hear boots against wood, the thud of someone falling. You don't look, no one does, not until someone screams, not in fear, but in pain. Then it changes. Then everything moves at once. People scatter. Doors slam. The fire in the center of the village crackles too brightly. You crouch beside a wall, clutching something useless in your hand. A cup, a spoon, a cloth. You don't remember. You listen as wood breaks, as fists land, as someone's breath leaves in a rush that doesn't return. Then silence. And then, beneath it, footsteps. You step out after it's quiet again. The riders are still here, but one of them is limping. Eric is on the ground, blood at his mouth, eyes open but not seeing. His wife kneels beside him, making no sound. Someone pulls her away gently, without force. The men speak again, words measured, slow. No one argues now. A trade is agreed, a payment, not gold, not goods, a promise perhaps, or a child sent to serve them, or a sack of salt kept hidden for emergencies. You don't ask. you don't want to know. The visitors leave before midnight. No feast, no farewell. Just the sound of hooves retreating into the woods, and the echo of something you can't name staying behind. Blood dries quickly in the cold. Someone gathers water. Someone gathers cloth. You stand still, arms at your sides, watching as Eric's body is lifted and carried toward the edge of the village, toward the old stones where others have gone before. By morning, the ground has already absorbed most of the stains. Children ask questions. They're told to be quiet. The older ones understand. The younger ones pretend to. You return to your work, though everything smells like metal and smoke. There's no ceremony, no vengeance, just breath and silence. The next day, someone repairs the fence that was broken in the scuffle. Someone else sweeps the blood-stained straw into a pile and burns it. No songs are sung, no stories told. But when the wind shifts and you catch the scent of horses on the air, you tighten your jaw without meaning to, because now you know how easily blood finds its way back to this place. Not in great floods, not in battles, but in footsteps, in shadows, in voices raised just enough to remind you that nothing here is ever truly settled, and when it comes, it never comes alone. There's no water left in the bucket. The well is frozen over again, and no one's bothered to break through the ice today. Your hands are covered in blood. Not yours. Not entirely. It's on your palms, under your nails, in the lines of your fingers like it's always belonged there. You look around the longhouse, but no one moves to help. The cloth is already soaked. The bowl is empty. So you step outside into the snow. It crunches under your boots, thin in some places, piled in others. The light is gray, flat, offering no warmth, no comfort. You kneel and scoop a handful with numb fingers, pressing it into your skin. The cold is instant and blinding. Your hands clench. You bite your tongue to keep from crying out. The snow begins to melt from your body heat, turning red as it mixes with the blood. You rub it over your palms like sand, scraping at the stains, trying to get beneath them. But they've settled in. More snow. This time you use both hands, packing it tighter, grinding it into the worst of the mess. It helps a little. The blood thins, runs in pink trails down your wrist, freezes in rivulets near your sleeves. You scrub harder. The skin burns now, not from heat, but from cold working its way through the flesh. Your breath comes in sharp bursts, misting the air in front of you. The world smells like iron. The blood is fading, but not fast enough. Someone calls your name from the doorway, voice flat. You nod without looking, without answering. They go back inside. You're alone again. Just you and the snow and the stain that won't quite leave. You press your hand against the ground, watching the red smear melt into the white. It disappears quickly, swallowed by the ice, as if nothing ever happened. But you know better. Snow hides everything. It doesn't forgive. Your fingers are shaking now, stiff with cold, too clumsy to scoop more snow properly. You resort to dragging your hands directly through the powder, letting it cling and scrape and pull what it can. There's blood on your sleeves too, on the edge of your tunic, near the shoulder. You'll deal with that later, or not at all. Some things just stay. You look at your hands again. Clean enough, maybe. Pale and raw, the skin starting to split at the knuckles. You hold them close to your chest and sit back on your heels, staring out at the trees. Everything is still. The world feels muffled, like the snow has swallowed not just sound, but thought. For a moment, you almost forget what happened. Almost. But your knees are wet, and your hands sting, and the air still smells faintly of blood and smoke. You press your hands to your face, hoping the warmth will return. It doesn't. You stand slowly, legs aching, and walk back toward the house. No one says anything when you come in. They see your hands, they understand, or they pretend to. You sit near the fire, but the warmth feels like it belongs to someone else. You rub your palms together, trying to feel them again, to make sure they're still yours. A child watches from across the room, silent, eyes wide. You look away. There's a bowl of something on the floor beside you. Soup, maybe. You don't touch it. You stare into the flames, and for a moment, they remind you of the blood, the way it moves, the way it refuses to stay buried. You close your eyes and breathe through your nose, the scent of ash, of damp wool, of smoke. No iron now, no red, just gray, just cold. Snow takes the color, but never the weight, and now that weight is yours to carry. Quietly. Always. You dream of bread, not the coarse, gray kind that lives in your hands and sticks to your teeth, but something soft, golden, warm. It rests in your palms like a gift, steam curling up into your face, filling your nose with a scent you've never truly smelled. Sweet, you think. Maybe honey. Maybe something spiced. Cinnamon, though you don't know the word. It's just a feeling. Deep, round, gentle. The crust cracks under your thumb with a sound so perfect it makes you smile in your sleep. You tear a piece off and hold it to your mouth, and when you bite down, it melts. No chewing, no effort, just warmth spreading through your jaw, down your throat, into your chest like a fire that doesn't burn. Your body forgets the cold. Your limbs stop aching. You close your eyes inside the dream, and the taste lingers, realer than anything you've eaten in weeks. In the dream, someone hands you more. Not because you asked, not because you earned it, just because they had enough. Their face is soft, blurred at the edges like smoke, but kind. You sit together on a bench that doesn't creak, under a sky that doesn't threaten snow. The bread keeps coming. With butter, maybe. With fruit. You don't know these things, but in the dream you do. You know them the way the body knows heat or pain or grief. You laugh, not loud, just a small sound at the edge of your breath. Someone leans on your shoulder and you don't pull away. You don't ask where they came from. You don't ask if they'll stay. You only hand them a piece of the bread, and they take it. And you both eat, slow and full. Your fingers are clean. Your face is clean. Your belly fills and stays full. No gnawing, no tightness. Only enough. You wake with your mouth open, dry, bitter. The scent is gone. The fire beside you is dead or low, and the blanket has fallen to your knees. Your hands are curled into fists, empty. You don't move right away. You lie there, eyes closed, trying to hold on to the dream, to keep the last curl of sweetness tucked under your tongue. But it fades. Of course it does. It always does. You sit up slowly, body creaking like old wood. Someone snores in the far corner. A child shifts and mumbles. You hear the wind outside, chewing at the roof again. You wipe your mouth on your sleeve and feel the crack in your lip reopen. No blood, just sting. You reach for the stale end of yesterday's bread. It's hard, cold. You chew it anyway, but it tastes like ash, like nothing. You chew and you remember. You've never tasted cinnamon. You've never seen butter in that color. You don't know where those shapes, those flavors came from. But the dream returns often. Not every night, but enough to make you wish. Enough to make you close your eyes while chewing, hoping the texture might change. It doesn't. You eat what's left and swallow hard. There's no shame in hunger. But dreaming of food, good food, is a different kind of ache. It's not survival. It's longing. It's the part of you that hasn't shut down yet. The part that still hopes. You stand slowly, brush the crumbs from your lap, and add wood to the fire. The smell of smoke is real. The ache in your belly is real. But so was the dream in its way. You can still feel it behind your teeth. And maybe that's enough for now. Maybe that's what keeps you waking. A memory of something you've never had. Something warm. Something sweet. Something that lets you believe there might be more than this. It happens slowly, and then all at once. At first, you remember their names easily, spoken around the fire, whispered during work, scratched into wooden beams that won't last another winter. You say them aloud when passing their old places at the table, when tying knots the way they taught, when stepping over the same spots they once slipped on. A name is a thread, and you pull it gently, keeping the shape of someone who was once whole. But days pass, then more. The earth settles over the grave, the cloth rots, the smell fades. Someone else takes their sleeping space. The tools are used by new hands. And one morning you catch yourself struggling to recall a syllable. Was it Haldor or Hallgrim? Did she hum when she cooked? Or was that someone else? You squint at the past like it's fog and realize how easily it drifts. The burial is simple. It always is. A hole dug before the ground hardens, a blanket wrapped tight, a stone or nothing at all. No marker unless someone insists. No songs unless someone is strong enough to sing. A few words, maybe, if the person had no enemies. Then the dirt. Then the quiet. You stand with others, shoulder to shoulder, breathing the same cold, not speaking. Grief isn't loud here. It's not wild or theatrical. It's heavy and low, like smoke that never lifts. People cry, but not for long. Not because they're heartless, but because time doesn't stop. There are still animals to feed, roofs to patch, food to gather. The tears dry faster than they should, and when the chores return, they come with a kind of mercy. Repetition. The same motions over and over until your hands forget what they held before, until your tongue forgets what it once said. Some names stay longer than others. The ones who died young, the ones who screamed, the ones who left behind questions. You remember those, for a while, but even they begin to blur at the edges. You see a face in a dream and wake up unsure whether it belonged to a brother or a cousin or someone who once borrowed your knife. You look at an old scarf in the corner of the room and know it wasn't yours, but can't remember whose it was. You ask someone, and they shrug. Maybe Astrid's, maybe Inga's. It doesn't matter. It's warm. That's all that matters now. The dead lose their names, and then they lose their details, and then they lose their meaning. And somehow you remain, carrying nothing but outlines. Vague warmth, a story with no characters, a feeling that doesn't match a face. You tell yourself you won't forget the next one. You'll carve their name, keep it spoken, pass it on. But the carving takes time, the speaking fades, and the passing on feels pointless when no one listens. So you stay quiet. You nod when others mention the past, even if you don't remember the person they're talking about. You stand in silence during the next burial, feeling that familiar numbness creep in. And later, when you lie in your bed, staring at the rafters, you try to recite the names of everyone you've lost. You make it through 5, maybe 6. Then the rest vanish. Not because you didn't love them, but because memory is a luxury. And here, even the living barely have names. Their hands, their voices, their breath, until they're not. And then the silence grows. Not heavy, just permanent, just ordinary, like snow, like ash, like forgetting. The man comes from the next village over, dragging a sled with a crooked runner and a look that says he won't beg, but he'll take what he can. He brings salt, real salt, not the damp clumps scraped from the bottom of an old barrel, but dry crystals that catch the light. You haven't tasted that kind of salt in months, maybe longer. You run your tongue over your teeth and feel the grit still there from last week's bread. He asks what you'll give. You hesitate. You don't have much. No one does. But there's the pelt, the thick one you've been saving. You tell yourself it's too warm to use now, that you'll find another before the cold returns. But you know you're lying. That pelt was supposed to wrap a child, or line a bed, or maybe save your life if next winter is worse than the last. Still, you lift it from its place behind the beam and hold it out. He nods once, no smile. The trade is made. You weigh the salt in your hands. It's heavier than it looks. You imagine how long it might last, how many pots of stew it could season, how many wounds it might clean, how many tongues it might keep from going dry in the morning. You tell yourself it was worth it. But when the man leaves and the sled creaks back into the trees, you feel something slip. Not just the pelt, not just the warmth. Something quieter. Something behind the ribs. You tuck the salt away, out of sight, and try not to think about the night you'll need that fur. The one where the fire won't catch, or the wind gets in under the door, or someone starts coughing and doesn't stop. You'll tell yourself you had no choice. That survival is just math. Give one thing, get another. But deep down, you already know the math is wrong. That sometimes you trade more than you realize. It happens again, a week later. A blade this time. Your blade. The one you've carried since your father's hand was still steady enough to sharpen it. It's chipped now, dulled at the tip, but it still cuts. Still opens fish and wood and cloth and meat. Still means something. But you need fish. The nets came back empty. The traps, too. Your stomach aches in the morning now, not from sickness, just emptiness. A man from the coast offers dried fish. 5 strips, no bones. He sees the knife at your side. You try to offer something else. Rope, bone hooks, cloth. But he shakes his head. He wants the knife. You hesitate, long enough for him to turn. Then you stop him. You pull the knife from its place and hold it flat in your hand like it's already someone else's. The trade happens. The fish tastes like salt and old wood. You eat every scrap. That night, your hands reach for the blade while cutting a branch and find only your belt. You tell no one what you've traded, not because they'd judge you, but because they'd understand. And that's worse, because they've done the same. You see the empty space on someone's wall where a fur once hung. You see a boy in boots too thin for snow, and you wonder what was bought in their place. You stop asking questions. In this village, trade is more than barter. It's quiet loss. It's choosing which need is louder. You lie awake at night, thinking of what else you might let go of. A shawl, a pot, a story. There's always something left to trade. Until there isn't. And when that day comes, when the trader asks and your hands are empty, you'll have only yourself to offer. A day of labor, a night's warmth, a promise, Joe. Something you thought was yours. And you'll give it, because hunger doesn't care what you meant to keep. It only cares what you're willing to lose. It started days ago. Or maybe weeks. You've stopped counting. The snow came light at first, soft and scattered, harmless as dust. Then heavier, thick flakes falling straight down with no wind, piling silently against walls and doors, blanketing the ground until paths disappeared. Then the wind did come, and with it the drifts, high and sharp-edged, carving shapes into corners, burying woodpiles and tools, and sometimes whole thoughts. You dig a path to the well, and by the time you return, it's gone again. Covered, erased. You dig again. The snow makes no sound as it falls. Only your shovel does. Your breath is loud in your ears. Your boots are heavy, and the whiteness presses in from all sides. Not bright, not clean, just endless. As if the world has decided on one color and refuses to let go of it. Inside, the snow follows you. It clings to your sleeves, your eyebrows, the folds of your coat. It melts in puddles near the hearth, then refreezes overnight into slick patches that catch your steps. It drips from the beams when you hang your coat, soaks into your blanket while you sleep, soaks into your skin when you forget to shake it off. It's in the firewood, in the straw, in the walls. You dream of snow now, not as a storm, not as fear, just presence, constant, a weight. You wake in the night and think you hear it, pressing against the roof like a thought too heavy to hold. No one talks about it anymore. Not because it isn't there, but because there's nothing left to say. You watch it fall through the small gap above the door and feel your shoulders sink a little more each day. The snow doesn't care if you watch. It falls whether you do or not. You've forgotten what the earth looks like. You try to picture mud, grass, a flat path between homes that doesn't swallow your boots. But the memory slips through your fingers, softened by repetition. The snow has a sound now, not falling, but existing. A silence that grows louder the longer you listen. It hums behind everything. The cough of someone sick, the snap of a branch, the crunch of footsteps that never seem to end. You begin to move differently, slower, smaller. You conserve. Firewood, breath, words. You say less to everyone. Even the children speak softer now, if at all. The snow eats sound, it eats shape, and it eats time. You wake and the light is the same as yesterday. You sleep and the white remains. No beginning, no end. Just more. Sometimes you step outside and let it cover you. You tilt your head back, close your eyes, and listen. Not to find peace, but to feel anything. The flakes hit your skin and melt slowly, as if deciding whether they want to become part of you. You stay there longer than you should, until your feet burn and your fingers go stiff. Then you return to the longhouse and someone asks if the wood is dry. You nod. You hand over half of what you brought. You sit by the fire, but it doesn't warm you like it used to. The snow is still in your clothes, in your bones, in your thoughts. It doesn't leave, not with heat, not with prayer. It just waits and falls and waits again. And you keep moving through it, day after day, hoping not for spring, but simply for something else. Anything other than white. Anything other than this. They said they'd return. Not in so many words, not always with a promise, but in the way they packed their things, slow, careful, folding wool as if it mattered. In the way they glanced back before the edge of the trees. In the way their boots paused a moment longer on the path. Some were heading to the coast, where the boats gather, where traders speak foreign words and sometimes pay in metal. Some went inland, chasing deer tracks that vanish with the thaw. And some went with nothing at all, just a satchel, a look, and the silence that follows those who've had enough. You watched each one go, not asking when, not asking if, because asking makes it real. Instead, you nod. You keep your hands busy. You carry the quiet with you, and you wait. At first, you count the days. You mark them by the fire, in notches on the wood near your bed, by how many times the dog howls at the same shadow. You imagine their return, how their faces will look, what stories they'll bring, what warmth their arms might carry. You picture them heavier with goods, or leaner from hunger, but always whole, alive, walking down the path with the wind at their back and the sun behind them. You even prepare, some nights, boil extra water, leave the door unlatched, speak their names softly to yourself, just in case the wind decides to carry it back to them. But days blur. Notches grow uneven. The extra bowl gets put away, and their name becomes something you only say in your head when no one's near. You tell yourself there are reasons. Delays, a storm, a broken wheel, a trail washed out. You make excuses on their behalf, even when no one's asking. You catch yourself doing it aloud sometimes. They're smart, you say, to no one. They know these woods, but your voice sounds strange when you speak it. Too thin, too light. So you stop. You wait without talking. You grow used to the weight of uncertainty, the way it settles into the room like damp smoke. Others stop asking too. No one wants to remind you. And besides, they're all waiting for someone. A brother, a son, a lover, a friend. The village is full of doors left half open, of beds that haven't been rolled away, of names no longer called out loud. You're not the only one staring down the path when the sky darkens. Some days, you hear footsteps that aren't there. You sit up straighter at the sound of branches, or the crack of a sled on ice, or the low call of a name that might have once been yours. But it's always something else. The wind, a neighbor, a fox. You go back to your work. You tell yourself not to hope, But of course you do, you always do. You think of what you'll say if they return. Something simple. Something that doesn't show how long you waited. But mostly, you imagine what they'll look like. Older, thinner, or maybe stronger. Maybe they found something worth sharing. Maybe they're too ashamed to come back empty-handed. Maybe they forgot. Maybe they're dead. You never let yourself settle on one story for too long. Because if you choose one, you have to bury the others, and you're not ready for that. So you keep the fire going. You leave a space clear by the wall. You nod when someone else leaves, even though part of you wants to grab their wrist and say, "No one comes back." But you don't. You let them go, like all the others, and you wait. Because what else is there to do? This is the rhythm now. This is the quiet faith that threads itself through your days like smoke through the beams. You carry it like a weight and a comfort. You wait, not loudly, not desperately, just patiently, quietly, as if waiting were its own form of survival. And maybe it is. The blade is already sharp. It was sharp yesterday, and the day before. It doesn't need this. But your hands move anyway. The stone is smooth from years of use, the groove in its center shallow but familiar. You wet it, settle in, and drag the edge slowly across, once, twice, again. It hisses, a soft, dry whisper that no one answers. You could stop. You know that. But you won't. Because sharpening is what comes after chores, after silence, after there's nothing left to mend or scrub or carry. Sharpening fills time the way snow fills cracks, without rush, without thought. Your eyes drift as you work, not focusing on the steel but on the doorframe, the beam with the knot that looks like a face, the gap in the roof that lets in cold. You're not waiting for anything, not really. But your hands keep moving. There's no battle coming, no raid, no hunt. If there were, someone would have said something. Someone would have knocked or called or run past your door out of breath. But the village is quiet, the kind of quiet that wraps around you, makes the blade feel heavier in your hand than it should. You think of old stories, how warriors slept with weapons beside their beds, how sons were given knives before they grew their first beard. You remember someone saying once, "A dull blade is worse than none." You don't remember who. Might have been your father, might have been you. Now it's just something you say to yourself when the silence gets too loud. You touch the edge and wince. Still sharp, too sharp. You run it again anyway. The sound grounds you. Outside, someone coughs. A child cries. A door creaks. All normal things. None of them mean anything. You keep going. The blade used to have a name. Or maybe it didn't. Maybe that was just something people said to feel braver. You try to imagine using it now, not against a man, but a deer, a rope, a fish. But you haven't seen a fish in days, haven't touched raw meat in longer. Your mouth tastes of smoke and old roots. You swallow. Keep sharpening. The stone feels warm now, not from friction, but from the memory of your hands. You pause only to blow off the metal dust. It hangs in the air a moment before settling. Like breath you don't want to waste. Eventually, the blade gleams, uselessly. No one needs it. No one asks for it. You think of the last time it cut something real, and the memory is blurred. Was it an animal? A rope? A thief? You're not sure. It doesn't matter. You set the blade down beside you and reach for another. Duller, older, less deserving. But it still deserves something. A gesture, a ritual, something to fill the time before the fire dies down. You press it to the stone. Begin again. You won't stop until it's dark. Maybe not even then. Because this is what hands do when hearts forget. They repeat. They mimic the past. They move just enough to feel alive. Just enough to say, I'm still here. Wood is everywhere. It holds the roof above your head. It carries the fire that keeps you from freezing. It cradles your food in bowls, stirs your stew with spoons, ferries you across the water in creaking boats. It lines the walls, the floor, the frame of your bed. It shapes the handles of your tools, the frame of your sled, the shaft of your axe. You wake in a wooden room, walk across a wooden threshold, lean against wooden beams, sit on wooden stools. There is no part of your day untouched by it. And in return, it touches you back. Every nail, every ridge, every rough edge leaves a mark. Your hands carry the story of wood, etched, buried, forgotten. The splinters come silently. A crack in the wall, a slip of your grip, a board you carried wrong. At first you notice them. You suck the air through your teeth, hiss, pull at the sliver with a dirty fingernail. Sometimes you get it. Sometimes you don't. The skin swells, reddens, maybe weeps a little. You ignore it. There's no salve, no cloth clean enough, no time. You cover it with work. You press that hand against the next task and let the pain dull to something familiar. The wood doesn't care. It gives what it gives. Warmth, shelter, wounds. Eventually the pain dulls, then it disappears. The splinter stays. You forget it's there. Over time, the wood wins. Not all at once, but little by little. The grooves in your palm deepen. The calluses thicken. Your fingers stop feeling the smaller cuts. Only the deep ones get your attention now. You don't remember what your hands looked like before. Before the swelling, before the grime, before the permanent grime in the folds of your knuckles. You flex them in the firelight sometimes, out of curiosity. Not for beauty, just to remember that you can. They creak like old doors. You find another splinter. This one's deep. You press on it until a bead of blood wells up, dark and reluctant. You don't flinch. You don't even blink. It's just part of the job. No one asks how your hands are. Everyone's hands are the same. Torn, stiff, scarred. You pass a bowl to someone and see the same swelling on their knuckles. You hold a child and feel a soft cheek press against your cracked thumb. The contrast is so sharp, so strange, that for a moment it hurts more than the wood ever did. But it passes. Everything does. The wood will still be there tomorrow. It will splinter. It will shelter. It will demand. You will answer the way you always have, not with words, but with skin, with quiet, with work, until your hands no longer feel like yours, until they feel like the villages, like the forests, like the past. It happens quietly. That's what stays with you. Not the cold, not the grief, not even the fear. The silence. The way the baby doesn't cry that morning, doesn't stir, just lies there, small and still, wrapped in the same woolen cloth that held them the night before. You don't rush. You don't shout. Something inside already knows. Maybe it knew during the night, when the wind pressed harder against the walls than usual. Maybe it knew yesterday, when the child coughed and then didn't cough again. You lift the cloth, just enough to see. No wounds, no bruises, just stillness, a kind of calm that has nothing to do with peace. You place the cloth back, slowly, the way you might close a door to a room you never want to enter again. There's no ceremony, no sudden gathering. You sit by the hearth and keep your hands busy, even though there's nothing to do. Others enter the longhouse and see your face. They don't ask, they know. One glance and they understand everything. A nod, a pause, a quiet shift in how they move. Someone takes the other children outside. Someone else brings water, though no one drinks. There are no prayers. The gods don't get this one. Not today. This isn't for them. This is for the dirt, the cold, and the strange cruelty of breath that simply stops one day without reason. You don't cry, not yet. You won't, maybe. Sometimes it happens that way. The tears stay inside, thick and unmoving, like oil in winter. Later, you dig. The ground is stiff but not frozen, not deep, just far enough. No marker, no names. There's a place for this, already used, already known. Someone helps you. No one speaks. The child is light in your arms, lighter than they should be. You hold them tighter than necessary, just once, just long enough to remember how it felt to carry them alive. Then you let go. You cover them gently, slowly, one handful at a time. The sound of dirt on cloth is soft, and that hurts more than it should. When it's done, no one lingers. There's work to do, there's always work to do, and silence is heavier when held too long in one place. Back inside, you sit. You don't explain to the others. You don't mention the child's name. Some won't know it. Some won't ask. There were other babies before. There will be more after. This is how it is. This is the rhythm. Not a tragedy, not exactly. Just a fact. Like hunger, like snow, like firewood that burns too fast. You press your hands against your knees. You breathe. And the world doesn't stop. It creaks and groans and moves forward with or without your permission. A bowl is passed to you. You eat, not because you're hungry, but because that's what one does. Because the baby doesn't wake up, and the rest of you have to. There are no candles to mark your years. No parchment where your name sits beside a date. No carved line on the beam above your bed, etched each birthday like tally marks in a jail. There is only winter, and the number of winters you can remember is not the number of winters you've lived. Some were so cold they burned away memory. Some bled into each other, gray and shapeless, like sky before a storm. You don't know how old you are. Not exactly. People used to tell you once, your mother maybe, or someone who knew her. They'd say, you were born 2 winters after the big fire, or just before the year of the coughing sickness. But those markers faded with the people who held them. And now when someone asks, you shrug. You say, I've seen enough, or older than you maybe, and you leave it at that. There's no mirror in your home, just a polished bowl or a puddle with enough stillness to catch a glimpse. But those glimpses lie. They shift with the light, with the angle, with the way your face bends as you lean in. You've seen your reflection maybe a dozen times in your life, and each time you're surprised. Not because of the creases or the dullness of your eyes, but because you don't recognize yourself. You carry yourself in your hands, in your gait, in the way your knees creak before the sun rises. Age is not a number. It's a sound, a weight, a forgetting. You know you're not young, but you don't feel old either. You feel lived, and that's enough. Others around you fade faster. The child who played near the hearth last spring is now bent with chores. The man who taught you how to bind rope walks slower now. The girl who used to hum while gutting fish now speaks only when spoken to. You watch them and realize time has touched them too. Not like a line, but like a tide, pulling away pieces, leaving behind driftwood and salt. You don't speak of age, not unless it's to say someone is old enough to work, or too young to die, or past childbearing. The rest is noise. The rest is guessing. Sometimes you wonder if your bones know the truth better than your tongue does. But your bones don't speak. They creak. They ache. They settle into the floor when you sleep. And that's their language. You don't measure your life in years. You measure it in seasons. In how many roofs you've repaired. In how many times you've replaced the same tool. In how many births you've heard through the thin walls. In how many voices you once knew that no longer call your name. You measure it in scars, in teeth lost, in fires survived. You measure it in the distance between your earliest memory and the ones that still feel warm. But none of those tell you how old you are. And maybe that's the point. Maybe age is just another thing that belongs to people with parchment, with books, with clocks. Here you have wind, you have smoke, you have the sound of the sea, and the feel of your breath in the morning when it clouds the air. You have time, just not in numbers, and not in years. You could leave. People have. Some packed what little they had and followed the coast, chasing rumors of warmer winds and softer beds. Others never said goodbye, just disappeared into the trees, into the snow, into silence. You've seen their places by the fire left cold. You've seen the empty frames where their faces used to be. And still, you stay. Not because you believe it gets better, not because you're proud or brave or loyal. You stay because the thought of leaving feels hollow, because someone must tend the coals, because someone must remember the names, because someone must keep the place from falling completely to pieces. There's no monument to your choice. No one sings for the ones who remain. But you do what must be done. You patch the leaks again. You lift a child whose mother can no longer carry them. You bring in the last of the wood before the snow makes the path too slick. You light the fire, even when the hearth smokes and the warmth never quite reaches your bones. The days are long and the nights are longer. But your body still moves. Your hands still find purpose. You feed others before you feed yourself. You listen more than you speak. You've learned the quiet matters more than the noise. Some mornings you wonder how long this will go on. How many more winters? How many more shallow graves? You don't expect reward. You don't expect comfort. But sometimes, someone sits beside you without speaking. Sometimes a hand finds yours in the dark. Sometimes you hear a baby laugh, and it's the only sound that doesn't feel borrowed. Those moments don't fix anything, but they steady you. They remind you that staying is not the same as giving up. It is not failure. It is endurance. And endurance has its own kind of grace. So you stay. Even when the storms return, even when food runs low, even when the gods fall silent again. You stay not because you're sure, but because leaving would mean no one remains. And that's the one thing you cannot accept. The idea of this place, this rough edge of the world, crumbling without witness. So you stay. You breathe. You mend. You light the fire again. Not for glory. Not for hope. Just because you are here. And maybe, just maybe, someone else will stay too. And that was life in a Viking village. Not a saga of heroes, but a quiet endurance. If you're still here, still listening, then perhaps that's the point. Survival, not glory. Silence, not triumph. And even in the cold, you were never truly alone.